Good evening, Patriots, and welcome to another edition of the Douglas Ducote Show. You had many places you could be tonight. You chose to be here with me, and for that, I'm forever grateful. Thank you very, very much. Whether you're watching us tonight live on the YouTube channel, the Rumble channel, the X channel, or over at Facebook, please like, subscribe, share it with your family and friends, and let them know about the Douglas Ducote Show. And we have a lot of things to cover tonight. And we're going to dive deep into clearing up a few things. But the first thing I want to cover is pretty much breaking news. One side of this coin, I 100% support. The other side, I don't. And we will go into that. President Trump today ordered the 82nd Airborne Division command elements to deploy to the Middle East, positioning forces for possible rapid ground operations against Iran. And we will go further into that. But first, I put together a little something about the 82nd Airborne Division to share with you all.
Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
The Global Response Force requirement. We have a company that's ready to outload, no notice, in 18 hours. We can go upwards of a brigade with 3,500 paratroopers and all various enablers that we would need that's ready to, from alert, no notice, be anywhere in the world in anywhere from 72 to 96 hours.
That firmness will always be measured.
Our forces have conducted themselves courageously.
So that's why we do what we do. And I saw you out there. I saw you in the jungle.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
As the modern paratrooper carries the torch from this past into the future, we pay tribute to the honor, valor, and sacrifice of those here.
This is your only warning. We will fight, and we will win. The devils and baggy pants are ready.
And the move elevates U.S. readiness for airborne assaults to signals a sharper escalation in a highly volatile theater. Major General Brandon Tegmeyer and his headquarters staff are deploying to establish forward command and control for potential joint forcible entry missions, including strikes on strategic targets such as Iran's Karing Island oil export hub. While no final decision has been announced, the deployment of a division-level headquarters places the U.S. in a position to execute immediate combat operations if ordered. So the command element is going there now, and the remainder of the 82nd is on standby to deploy once they're told to. According to additional reports from the New York Times, the deployment is closely tied to the 82nd Airborne Division's immediate response force, a brigade-sized unit of approximately 3,000 troops capable of deploying globally within 18 hours. This high readiness force provides immediate operational flexibility, enabling U.S. commanders to respond rapidly to emerging contingencies in a region where escalated timelines are compressed. The 82nd Airborne Division serves as U.S. Army's premier joint forcible entry formation, built to conduct parachute assaults and seize critical terrain in contested environments. Structured around infantry brigade combat teams supported by artillery, engineers, aviation, and logistics units, the division can deploy rapidly with a scalable combat package. Its operational role centers on establishing initial logistics, such as airfields, ports of key infrastructure, and enabling the introduction of follow-on forces and sustained joint operations. In the context of potential operation against Iran, the division's capability align with severe high-priority mission sets. The primary task would be for the airborne to seize, for instance, an airfield, allowing U.S. forces to rapidly establish an air bridge for reinforcements and sustainability. On Krang Island, where recent strikes have degraded infrastructure, this will require securing and stabilizing runway facilities under constant conditions before establishing or enabling continuous airlift operations using C-130 and C-17 aircraft. The division is also optimized for rapid seizure and control of strategic infrastructure, including all export terminals, port facilities, and command nods. Its light infantry forces are highly mobile and capable of operating in dense industrial terrain, as well as the desert, making them well suited for secure energy infrastructure such as the Krang Island export installation. These operations would likely be supported by precision fire, attack aviation, and joint air power to offset the division's limited organic heavy armor. Another critical capability is extended crisis response, including non-kinetic evacuation operations, reinforcement of U.S. diplomatic facilities, and the establishment of secure corridors in unstable environments, such as the Straits of Hormuz. These missions are particularly relevant in a broad regional escalation scenario involving U.S. citizens, partners, or critical assets across the entire Middle East, and especially the Gulf states there. However, the 82nd's airborne efficiency is tied to speed and surprise rather than heavy protection. As a light infantry force, it deploys without armored vehicles in the initial phase, making it vulnerable to counterattacks by mechanized or entrenched Iranian forces. This limitation underscores the importance of integrated additional forces to provide engineering support, heavier firepower, and sustained operational endurance. Along with this, the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit provides this complementary capability as a forward-deployed Marine Air-Ground Task Force, combines a reinforced infantry battalion, aviation assets, and logistical element into a self-contained force capable of amphibious and vehicle assault operations. And they have already been in place for the past week. Its ability to operate from naval platforms allows it to project power ashore without reliance on existing infrastructure. In the Krang Island scenario, the MEU would likely conduct the initial assault phase, securing beachheads, port facilities, and key terrain. Marine combat engineers would play a defensive role in rapidly repairing damaged airfields and restoring operational capability, enabling the transition to a sustained air operations. This engineering capability is critical in a battlefield space where infrastructure has already been degraded by the ongoing airstrikes. The MEU aviation component includes MV-22 Osprey tilt rotor and attack helicopters, provides immediate mobility, close air support, and reconnaissance. This allows Marine forces to maintain operational momentum during the initial phase, bridging the gap until larger joint forces are introduced. Once the log minute is secured and infrastructure restored, the operational concept would allow swift to an enforced phase led by the 82nd Airborne Division. Airborne units could then rapidly deploy to expand the perimeter, secure additional objectives, and assume longer ground term control. The division's large manpower and sustainable capabilities will enable it to relieve Marine forces and maintain operational presence over time. The deployment of the 82nd Airborne Division's command element is central to this concept. A forward-based division headquarters provides the command and control architecture required to integrate Army, Marine Corps, Air Force, and potential allied forces into unified operations. This includes coordinated joint fires, managing airspace, and synchronizing logistics in a complex and contested operational environment. Strategically, these preparations indicate a shift from contingency planning to executable operations. Combination of a forward deployed airborne command structure and the Marine Expeditionary Force provides the United States with a credible capability to conduct rapid, limited objective operations or scale towards sustained ground engagement. In the context of Iran, this force posture directly enhances deterrence while at the same time preparing for scenarios involved in seizure of critical infrastructures or broader land operations. The 82nd Airborne Division is the United States Airborne Infantry Division that specializes in parachute assaults based in North Carolina at Fort Bragg. The 82nd Airborne Division consists of a division headquarters battalions, 3 infantry brigade combat teams, division artillery, combat aviation brigade, and division sustainable brigade. The 82nd in all has approximately 17,000 to 18,000 active duty paratroopers, making it one of the largest and most frequently deployed combat formations that the United States Army has. Its aviation element consists of the CH-47 Chinook helicopters, which I was on, UH-60 Blackhawks, and AH-64 Apaches, and now they're into drones heavily. So, with that said, for those of you that have been watching this show for years, you already know my history. You know that I served 4 combat operations, and I wish war on no one. At the same time, sometimes we find ourselves in a situation where that is the only way out. And in this case, as I've been saying for a long time now, that the only way for peace in the Middle East is to cut the head of the snake off, and that is Iran. I said that during the Clinton era. I said that during the Obama era, the Bush era, the Biden era, and even when Trump started this term and his last term. You can't have peace in the Middle East until you destroy Iran, because Iran is the #1 sponsor of terrorism globally. Every administration since 1979, when the Shah fell and the radical Islamics took over Iran, implemented Sharia law, and started supporting terrorists. They had to go. If you cut off them, then the ISIS, Hamas, Hezbollah, and all the other ugly fascists that jump out there and start killing innocent men, women, and children, and responsible for the deaths of hundreds, thousands of American troops since 1979. So what Donald Trump did was just the opposite of what his predecessors did. Instead of pleasing Iran and giving in to Iran, he stood up and said, no, they're already at war with us. They've been at war with us and Western civilization since 1979. And now we must stop this. So when he conducted, in Israel as well, conducted the airstrikes on Iran, I was happier than a pig rolling around in fucking shit. Because that's the only way we end this terrorist organization and supporter of terrorism global wide. Now, our initial military operation has been met. We have destroyed their Navy. It's all at the bottom of the ocean. We've destroyed their Air Force. They can't launch an aircraft. We've destroyed their Army. We've destroyed pretty much all of their Revolutionary Guard forces. We've destroyed their satellite capabilities. We've destroyed their infrastructure for their command and control, all their military barracks, everything dealing with, to include state-run type facilities and government organizations and the Ayatollah himself, the higher-ups, and all the military forces. They're all dead. We've annihilated their military. Now, what we're finding out is they had, yes, Trump was right, a ballistic missile capability that was being built to be able to deploy ICBMs to Western countries with a nuclear weapon and kill us all. That's their goal. Convert to Islam, convert to their way, convert to Sharia law, worship the Quran and not the Bible, and you live. Otherwise, we will kill you. They've said this time and time and time again, going back to 1979. So, now this brings me to the 82nd Airborne Division deployment. I do not want to see American ground forces in this conflict. I can understand if we're going to use them to strategically go into places where the nuclear facilities were to make sure we secure that. Go in and find these underground ballistic missiles, which Trump said they had. Democrats up in Washington, D.C. said there's no proof of that. And lo and behold, if they don't pull out 2 ICBMs and fire them at joint operations of our military, deploying over 1,000 some odd miles. I think it was 2,000 miles when they hit one of our islands where we keep B-52 bombers. So all those checkered keyboard warriors up in the Pentagon that think they know shit, they don't. When they fired those 2 intercontinental ballistic missiles, that proved that Trump was right all along. Now, we have found out from CNN, of all places. I didn't know this, but they actually went to these underground places where they've got complete cities, infrastructure, military infrastructure underground, where these intercontinental ballistic missiles are being built and stored and ready to fire. And they just pull them out when they're ready, shoot it, and disappear. So unless you happen to have satellites over at an exact moment, it's hard to pinpoint where they're at. That's what Trump was getting at. So I understand it fully. So if we're going to send them in to find those locations, to secure the oil production system, the island, take out what's left of the small elements of gnats that are firing off a missile every now and then, or drone towards other Gulf states, and secure the area where we know they were conducting nuclear testing, I can stand behind that. Although I'm not happy about it, because I know what it's going to bring. It's going to bring back body bags of American forces and coalition forces. Personally, fuck them. We've annihilated their military. Military-wise, they're never going to be a threat to the United States in our lifetime, or any other Western country or civilization for that matter. So be done with it. That's just my personal opinion. Now, that may be the case. And maybe this is all psychological warfare. But the 82nd really isn't, no intentions on going in there to start with. They're just deploying over there to show a force. Boy, we've done that many a time, psychological warfare in the United States military. I was a part of that. Operation Golden Pheasant, look it up. Of course, in my case, I was lucky enough to have to stay behind and continue conducting combat operations through Joint Task Force Bravo. But this is something we've done throughout history. Show this huge force and make them believe that they're about to be invaded. So that could be Trump's play. That could be his card he's dealing right now. I don't know. But the fact that they let it out, the cat out of the bag, that 80 seconds going, and you wouldn't do that if you really were going to use them, at least in my personal opinion. I don't think you would do that. You shouldn't do that, at least until they're there, ready to operate. Without a doubt, we've had coalition forces, especially Israel, American special operations, that have been very, very successful inside of Iran, pinpointing the location of their leadership and their military. So strikes can be done to kill them. So while I do not want to see us have ground forces go into Iran the way we did with Iraq or Afghanistan, and considering that we annihilated 99.9% of their military operation capability, back the fuck out. We finally got 23 other countries now to help protect shipping through the Straits of Hormuz so that the oil can continue going. And we're going to talk about that here in a minute as to why we have these gas prices here. Wait a minute, what about the drill baby drill and all the stuff that we're no longer going to be dependent on foreign oil? Why the fuck is our gas prices going up, right? And we're going to talk about that. So what do you think? Tell me in the comment section. Tell me in the chat. Do you think we should be sending in ground forces into Iran? And everyone that I've spoken to, all of my brothers and sisters that I serve with, we're all pretty much on the same agreement that it's not worth it when we have now destroyed their capability military-wise to continue the war that they started against us in 1979. Trump ended it. So where's the step-off point here? Now, I want to talk about what you're seeing happen at the pump when you go to fill your vehicle up. Some of y'all might have saw the video that I put out of me and my son out on the Lake Pontchartrain recently, 2 days ago. We took the boat, filled it up with fuel. That was almost $200. I was like, holy jeez. Then went to put diesel in my truck. It's about $4.99 right now over here. And while I understand why this is happening, many people do not grasp this concept. How is that possible? And then the Democrats up in Washington, D.C., and the liberal pundits all over social media that claim to be experts, and many people believe them because of the amount of followers they have, are pointing this out as a bad thing come midterms for Republicans. Because look what Trump did for our gas prices. And then you have to know, how did this take place? And who's telling the truth here? Well, I'm going to give you the facts. What's happening at the gas pump feels confusing to all of us, especially considering that America gets almost zero oil and gas from the Middle East. Thanks to Donald Trump's first term in office, the drill baby drill philosophy works and stops us from being dependent on foreign oil and gas. Trump was the first American president to do something about that problem. Then along comes Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And for 4 years, makes it a point to undo everything Trump put in motion. Stop the drilling on federal lands, stop most drill leases from oil companies, and killed the Keystone Pipeline. Then to add insult to injury, Biden pushed for windmills, all electric vehicles, attempting to stop all fossil fuels. What's that do? Puts us back dependent on foreign oil again. We have more oil and gas under the ground in America than any place else on the planet, to include the Middle East. Trump knew that. He tapped into that. And that's why when he took back over a year ago and erased all this bullshit the Bidens were doing, we started seeing our gas prices come down. And then we have to start this conflict over in the Middle East to stop the war that was already going on since 1979 against us. And then it shut down the straits where all this oil goes through. So Biden put forward these electric cars, electric trucks, electric buses, and even military equipment, which is one of the dumbest things any human could have thought of, much less put into place. Trump comes back into office, must restart everything that Joe Biden killed, and that takes time, lots of time. U.S. gas prices should only depend on U.S. oil, but in reality, here's the kicker. Oil is all tied into the global market, and that's the key. So here's what's going on. Trump's plan works 100% when the global market is not affected. We pay low prices at the pump, In fact, the prices at the pump were drastically coming down from the damage that drove Biden and Kamala Harris had done. But it's now going up because of the Iran conflict. Again, oil, even our oil, all oil, every company or every country is all tied together in the global market when it comes to prices, even though we're using our own. Number one, all prices are set globally, period. Even though the U.S. produces a lot of oil, thanks to Shell, the price of crude is tied to global benchmarks. If something threatens supply anywhere, with someone else, some other country, or like tensions in the Middle East or shipping risk in the Straits of Hormuz, global prices rise. U.S. producers can then sell at those higher global prices. So domestic prices rise too. The U.S. imports and exports oil. The U.S. produces a lot of crude oil, exports a significant portion, imports certain types of crude because refineries are designed for specific brands or blends. So we're not isolated. We're plugged into the same system as everyone else. So any country that needs those tankers to go through the straits and can't get them because they're shut down, and we're not getting that oil through the straits, our prices go up too. Gas prices depend on refining and distribution. Crude oil is just the starting point. Gas prices also reflect refinery capabilities. Shutdowns or maintenance can raise prices. Seasonal demand, summer driving season coming up, that pushes prices up regardless. Transportation, local supply issues. Geopolitics still matters. Even if the U.S. doesn't directly rely on Middle Eastern oil, distributions there affect global supply expectations, shipping costs, and insurance. Market speculations that ripple effects hits U.S. prices and hits it quickly. Companies sell at market price, not local cost. All companies don't price gasoline based on what it costs them to produce it locally here in America. They price it based on what they could sell it for globally. If global prices go up, U.S. prices follow. Now, that's not a very disturbing fact. I don't know what is. It's pathetic that we've allowed ourselves in this kind of situation with the global market on oil. Bottom line, even with strong domestic production, which we now have thanks to Trump, the U.S. can't escape global oil price. If anything shakes the worldwide supply, even far away in the Middle East, we see it at the pump. All that being said, what we are paying at the pump is temporary, my friends. Never forget, Iran has been at war with American and Western civilization since 1979 and threatening many, many times. Once they have a nuclear weapon, they plan to use it against all of us and our allies. Iran, the number one sponsor of global terrorism, the financial backer ISIS, Hamas, Hezbollah, Palestine, Islamic Jihad, the Houthis, and many others. Iran is also responsible for the deaths of thousands of innocent men, women, and children in our armed forces through their supply of IEDs to these terrorist organizations. So we had a choice between a nuclear-armed Iran or temporary spike in gas prices. That's the choices. And since liberals and liberal Democrats can't decide if they're a man or a woman or determine what a woman is, Trump made the decision for you. Oh, one more fact. During the Biden-Harris 4 years, there was nothing major in the Middle East. at all, or the Straits of Hormuz that would affect the global oil market. Not at all. Yet, gas prices in America on those 4 years were off the charts, higher than they are right now. But they don't want to talk about that, do they? Why? Because Biden-Harris stopped everything Trump put in his first term. The drilling, the offshore oil leases, the Keystone Pipeline, and tried to transfer everything to electric, which is not a capability. Our infrastructure can't handle it with what they were doing. And then if you have electric cars and electric everything, then when you have hurricanes and tornadoes and floods and fires, California and all their crap they go through, then guess what? You're not driving your vehicle because you can't plug it in anywhere. At one point, the peak during the Biden-Harris administration, with no global market issue whatsoever, the average gas price in America was $5 a gallon. Liberals and the Democrats up in Washington, D.C. fucking just forgot that. In 2021, the average was $3.40 a gallon. In 2022, it peaked at $5 per gallon. 2023, it was $3.90 per gallon. And right before Trump came back into power in 2024, we were paying on average $3.70 per gallon of gas at the pump. When you look at the facts, it's pretty damn simple. So liberals and liberal Democrats, do us a favor. Shut your pie hole. We don't want to hear shit about the gas prices that are lower with the global market they're tied to right now because of what's happening in the Middle East than they were under Biden-Harris. You wingnuts can't wrap your brain around that shit? And let's not forget, Obama, between 2009 and 2017, made direct payments to Iran of $1.7 billion fucking dollars. This money, Iran originally paid the U.S. decades earlier, before Iran became the #1 sponsor of worldwide terrorism in 1979, for military equipment that was never delivered because there was the fall, the Shah was kicked out, and Islamic terrorists took over. We weren't going to give them back that fucking money to a terrorist organization. So Iran sued America through the International Tribune and won. So instead of telling the International Tribune to go pound sand up their ass, we were not going to give terrorists $1.7 billion. Obama decided to pay it anyhow. Adding insult to this madness, the actual amount in the military equipment was only $400 million in principal. But Biden agreed to give them an additional $1.3 billion in interest. Then Biden comes along and negotiates with the #1 sponsor of terrorism, Iran, and a prisoner swap deal for $6 billion of your money. In 2023, the Biden deal allowed $6 billion with a verbal restriction that the money would not be used for more terrorist support and instead would be used for humanitarian purposes like food, medicine, etc. That's like telling Jeffrey Dahmer, if I allow you to sleep over at my house in a spare bedroom, will you make a pinky promise not to kill me and eat me in my sleep? Trump did not negotiate with the #1 sponsor of global terrorism, did he? Oh, hell no. He did what a real leader should do. He did what a man should do. He did what somebody with a set of balls should do. Instead of giving them money, He bombed the shit out of them back to the Stone Age where they fucking belong. Those two are the enemy. And I've already done videos and explained to you the facts of how they could be held responsible for treason, aiding and abetting the enemy. But not these Republicans in office. They're not going to do shit to them. Give them a fucking pass all day long. To read mainstream news today, or to dip into the, shall we say, panic world, alt-right social media, you might think the war in Iran has opened a major fracture within the MAGA movement. Both polling data and on-the-ground sentiment tell a very different story. You consider a Washington Post headline from this week. Vance is in a bind supporting a war that could cost him politically. Strong language, but on that very same day, a new LNB poll found that 83% of Republicans support what Trump is doing to Iran, with just 9% opposing. So, is that MAGA falling apart? The same survey asked GOP voters whom they trust more on the Iran conflict, President Donald Trump or high-profile podcaster like Tucker Carlson or Megyn Kelly, who have been leading the charge that MAGA is falling apart. Results were even more decisive, 83% to 6 in favor of the president. Another poll from Politico focused specifically on MAGA Republicans, the very group we're told is beginning to revolt against Trump. CNN saying it, ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC. It found that 81% of Americans support the Iranian strike and only 2% opposing. It's easy to see why liberals and legacy media, along with a relatively small group of anti-war conservative podcasters, are eager to push the narrative of a fracture within the GOP. There is a surface level plausibility. Trump has argued broken a promise and can no longer claim to avoid starting new wars. But this is not the case like it was with Iraq. 3 weeks does not mean a forever war. If 6 months from now, the United States is bogged down in an unpopular boots on the ground quagmire, something akin to what George Bush faced 2 decades ago, then the political calculus may change. But at present, every available indicator suggests Republicans are firmly aligned behind their president. Part of the reason is that, unlike in Iraq, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who has firsthand experience with the consequences of that conflict, has articulated 4 clear, limited, achievable objectives. Deny Iran nuclear capability. We've done that. Degrade its long-range missile systems. We just talked about that. We're finding out there's a shit ton of them, obviously buried underground. Neutralize its navy. They're at the bottom of the ocean. And disrupt its ability to fund proxy terror groups. Well, guess what? Those terrorist groups like Hamas aren't getting another dime. Iran needs it to build fucking buildings and homes. These goals have been constantly reiterated by administration officials, yet critics continue to describe the war as aimless. Additional fuel was poured on the narrative of internal MAGA dissent by the recent resignation of Joe Kent from the National Counterterrorism Group, where he served under Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, herself for anti-war views. Notably, Kent quickly began appearing on anti-war podcasts and was soon featured at a Stephen Bannon-backed anti-Israel Catholic conference in Washington, D.C. But this fraction, the anti-Israel, pro-Islamist wing of MAGA, is not new. Many of its leading voices have circulated in the same political orbit for years. The key point is that, at least on this issue, they appear to have limited influence among rank and file of the MAGA voters, which raises a natural question. If large numbers of conservatives are truly outraged over the Iranian conflict, where are they? Why aren't they marching, protesting, organizing, or showing up in public spaces in visible numbers? They're not, because it's another lie from the mainstream media, to include some Republican conservative voices. Podcasts may generate millions of clicks, but a click is an ambitious metric. It tells us little about who is watching or why. Some portions may not even come from genuine domestic audiences. Polling data isn't always perfectly aligned with real-world sentiment, but it is a case. It appears to be. Conservatives with voters suggest that even those initial wary of military action largely trust Trump's judgment, as well as his ability to contain and ultimately conclude the conflict. So, when you hear the left, and now a lot on the right, spewing this crap about how Republicans are stepping away from Trump, it's not true. Now, that being said, if we put boots on the ground in Iran and we end up in another quagmire like we did in Iraq or Afghanistan, it's probably over with. Another fucking Democrat will become president. Democrats will take over the House and Senate again, and then continuing to degrade our country. I gotta believe that the inner circle around Donald Trump is explaining this. And I gotta believe that he's smart enough to see the writing on the wall of what's going to happen if we start having our sons and daughters come home in body bags in massive amounts. To read much of today's political analysts, the results of the November midterm elections already seem taken care of. A recent Fox News poll shows Democrats leading Republicans by 6 points in support for the House. Last November, both New Jersey and Virginia elected Democrat governors by double digits, signaling an energized Democratic electoral and a demoralizing Republican one. And the Republicans holding a razor-thin 218 to 214 margin in the House, a net loss of just 3 seats would hand control to the Democrats and fuck this country. The Senate presents a more difficult, though not impossible, map for Democrats. Still, as the cliche goes, a week is a long time in politics. Midterms aren't until November. Election day, we're talking 7 months from now. Midterm elections are typically referendum on the sitting president. Given Donald Trump's singular ability to dominate and disrupt the political landscape, that dynamic is especially pronounced this year, 2026. Fortunately for Republicans, a number of known unknowns remain, factors that are likely to shape the outcome far more than today's snapshot of public opinion. The most obvious of these is the economy. But this year, foreign policy may prove just as consequential. While the ongoing bombing of Iran, shifting leadership in Venezuela, and growing uncertainty in Cuba Trump's unorthodox approach abroad could become decisive. Conventional wisdom holds that foreign policy rarely matters in elections. Well, that's just wrong. The president's actions on the world stage, especially military ones, can dramatically shape perception of strength and competence. Joe Biden's chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan, for instance, sent his approval ratings into a tailspin from which he never recovered. Having campaigned as Serious Joe, in contrast to Trump's volatility, Biden instead reinforced his critics' portrayal of him as weak. Trump, by contrast, is betting that distributing projected strengths and yielding results. The political impact of that strategy will depend less on today's polling, which shows considerable skepticism, and more of tangible outcomes in the months ahead. In Venezuela, Trump's approach appears, so far, at least for now, to have paid dividends. The removal of a hostile regime and the emergency of a more U.S.-friendly government mark a significant shift after decades of a complete and utter mess down there. Iran, however, presents a far more complex and dangerous test. At the end of February, Trump escalated tensions dramatically, obviously by targeting Iran. It was a bold move. It was a move that I support. Again, you want peace in the Middle East? Cut the head of the snake off. If Trump pulls this off, he's going to go down in history as a fucking genius. As a genius. To be able to say, I brought peace to the Middle East. Now, I want to share with you something that's a lot of you haven't heard. It's disturbing, to say the least. The Commonwealth of Virginia, once the cradle of American liberty and the home of the Bill of Rights, is witnessing a historic betrayal in real time, my friends. On March 14th, the Virginia General Assembly wrapped up their 2026 legislative session and rammed through over 15 pieces of anti-gun legislation. In just 60 days, the anti-gun left has nearly undone gun rights for millions of law-abiding Virginia residents. The crown jewel for tyranny, SB 749 and HB 217, two so-called assault weapons ban bills. These identical bills landed at the desk of newly elected Democrat Governor Abigail Spanberg during the final days of the legislation session and are currently awaiting her signature. She has promised to sign them into law. For years, gun owners of America and our dedicated members have stood against these unconstitutional infringements as they popped up in state legislations all around the country. Just a few weeks ago, although, overwhelming grassroots activists and pressure from gun rights organizations like the GOA, the NRA, similar assault weapons bans was defeated in New Mexico. And last year in Virginia, former Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin vetoed over 27 anti-gun bills, including assault weapons bans. The new election of billionaire Michael Bloomberg's backed Spanberg in November 2025, the governor's seat is now occupied by a rubber stamp from the radical gun control lobby. Anti-gun Democrats also flipped over a dozen pro-gun seats in the Virginia House of Delegates, while also maintaining a slim majority in the Virginia Senate. And within hours of gaining control of the governor's mansion and legislators, Anti-gun lawmakers began drafting numerous gun control measures, promising to ram them through the General Assembly at warp speed. Make no mistake, SB 749 and HB 217 have nothing to do with safety and everything to do with removing the Second Amendment rights of American citizens. This legislation targets the most popular firearms in America, tools used by millions of law-abiding citizens for self-defense, competition, and sports. According to the FBI, nearly twice as many people are murdered with hands and fists than rifles of any kind, and over 3 times as many with knives. Yet anti-gun radicals want us to believe semi-automatic firearms must be banned. But labeling semi-automatic rifles, pistols, and shotguns as assault firearms based on common features like folding stocks or threaded barrels, the anti-gunners are actively removing your ability to defend yourself and your family with the tool of your choice. She is part of the enemy. She is a prime example of what to expect if we lose the House and Senate at midterms. God forbid if we end up with another Democrat as the president and Democrat control both the House and Senate. It's going to take not just Republicans winning at midterms, but the next 2 presidential elections and the next 4 midterms to fix what Biden-Harris did to fuck us in 4 years. Imagine if we don't win at midterms. Imagine if we don't win in 2028. This country, as we know it, will be done. Stick a fork in it. Are you willing to take that gamble? I'm not. I didn't serve this country to let the radical left, the radical liberal Democrats, destroy it. So it is very important that Republicans do not sit on their ass come midterms. And that's what typically happens at midterms. Republicans seem to want to get out and vote for president, but come midterms or local elections, state elections, county elections, even something as simple as the school board, they don't show up and vote. Democrats do. And we can't allow that to keep happening. We have to change that completely. Our country survival depends on us pulling our heads out of our ass and doing the right thing. And of course, the right thing means a lot of shit. Like, why don't we see people in fucking prison right now that incited violence, supported terrorists? Department of Justice, the FBI, Republicans in Congress doing anything to Alejandro Omar, Rashida Tlaib, AOC, Anita Presley, Cory Booker, Hakeem Jeffries, Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters, anything? They've committed felony offenses over and over and over and over again. Police officers have targets on their back. ICE officers have targets on their back. There's been 3 attempts on the life of the president. Charlie Kirk was assassinated, all because of the liberal left Democrats in Washington, D.C. spewing nonsense, no merit bullshit. and stirring up their radical base to take action. And if they don't get their way, they riot and burn down shit. And where do they do that at? Where's all the violence take place at when you see it happening and burning down buildings and looting stores and shit? You don't see it happening in Republican areas, do you? It all happens in Democrat-run shitholes because they allow it. And now that Republicans have all three branches of government, you know what they're not doing? Stopping them. And I think that upsets me as a former military man, as a former law enforcement officer, as an American patriot, someone that served this country. That pisses me off more than anything else. To see every 24 hours go by and not a single Democrat up in Washington, D.C. being held accountable for their actions. It should piss you off too. You had many places to be tonight. You chose to be here with me, and for that, I'm forever grateful. Thank you very much. Again, whether you're watching us tonight on our Facebook channel, our YouTube channel, our Rumble channel, or X channel, please like, subscribe. Also, check out DouglasDucote.com. Remember, my book, Baton Rouge to Baghdad and Back, is available just about anywhere online. You can get it at Walmart, you can get it at Barnes & Noble, you can get it at Books A Million, Amazon. It's a great read. It's a funny read. And remember that thanks to 4 years of incompetence, we have people in this country waiting to kill us. Don't let your guard down. Protect yourself. Protect your family. They're here, folks. Thankfully, every now and then we're catching them before they can cause too much harm. But some of it's going through. Some of it's getting through. And that will continue. I'll be back on Thursday night. I hope you will join me. If anything breaks of major importance between now and then, I'll either come live or I will do a video about it. Other than that, hope you will join me back here on Thursday night. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders and their families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families, our country. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless each and every one of you. And I'll see you back here, my friends, on Thursday night. Have a blessed evening.